Fulham 3, Brighton 0. What a result for Fulham, you've got to think. Although Brighton haven't been as scary this season as they have in previous seasons, I would say. But still, to be honest with you, they've got something at Fulham that's really worked well. And I don't think they're getting the credit they maybe deserve, because Wolves have done a little bit better than them perhaps and had a bit more highlights. Or Bournemouth have been doing similar but with a new manager, so it's all the more exciting. Fulham haven't brought any marquee big name signings necessarily into the club. So I think what they've done with the squad they've got, it's really solid.
I think they've got a very good manager there in Marco Silva who knows what he's doing.
Even when he was at Watford, you could tell like he's got it. It always sometimes doesn't work out at certain clubs. Everton didn't quite work out.
Yeah, but no one works out at Everton.
Nah.
Sorry, guys.
Sean Dyche's doing all right.
Yeah, but some of them don't think that at the moment either.
But decent, really good.
Here's the really interesting thing. João Paulinho, absent for the last two. They deservedly won at Manchester United. They deservedly beat Brighton at the weekend as well. And to go back to the point on Silva, as I discussed last week, he's shoved the system around a little bit to play two out-and-out sitters. So rather than just having Paulinho and 2 8s, he's gone with more 2 6s, which have been Reed and Lukic, and played Pereira more like a 10 rather than an 8. And it's really done the trick for them in terms of in transition with an attacking forward and more likely a 3 in some previous games they've played. And it's worked brilliant against, with respect to Fulham, 2 teams who are better than them. And they've deserved to win both without Paulinho. How many times last year did we say, and even said it on COTC with Dara a couple of weeks ago, no Paulinho, massive trouble. And they've come through it to beat United and Brighton. Deserve massive credit. Now, does Paulinho come back in? Yes, probably. Yeah, well, I'm fascinated 100%. To see, though, because the systems work so well, if that sticks. One of the things we've long said about Muniz, who's on a great little run, still only 4.5, but probably largely going to get ignored because of Solanke, Tony, Watkins, Haaland, is we weren't sure if he'd keep his place for 29. It's almost looking at it now and going, well, how bad would he have to be at Wolves on Saturday not to play against Tottenham in game week 29, because he deserves to keep the shirt now. I think it was always, once he blanks, he'll probably come out. But he's playing well enough, even at United where he didn't score, he was outstanding, to say, right now, you deserve the shirt, you're staying in. Does Pereira play this more offensive position, which made him really interesting last year? At the moment, it's Iwobi left, Harry Wilson right. No, I'm not going to go back and massively recommend Harry Wilson. But, again, for those planning through, Fulham go to Wolves this weekend. A Wolves that's going to be without Cunha. He's going to be without Hwang, we now know as well. Doubts about João Gomez. And Pedro Neto might even be a doubt as well. So Wolves away, then Tottenham at home. You know you're going to get chances. And look what they've got in game week 30. Trip to Bramall Lane. So suddenly, I think we head in there and they've largely been overlooked. I'm not saying we should. So if I think back to the scenarios we've been talking about, -4 for like Udogie and his Villa away. Maybe someone like Anthony Robinson. He's the better choice for me.
Yeah,
maybe
perhaps.
Calvin Bassey and I can fluke a 15-pointer or something. So Fulham players on radar for me. I think probably more defensively than offensively at this moment, because it might specifically fix my problem. But say that a lot of people going into this week, like, which Bournemouth midfielder's best? Guess away. There's a few there at Fulham for those carrying through in 29. I'd arguably prefer. I don't know how you, like, if you can afford to go a West Ham midfielder instead, I'm sure you would do that. But I don't mind that for differential, particularly those maybe even wild carding now. Might want to look at having one in as a placeholder. You could have one of them go in as a placeholder for Palmer, for example, like a Wilson or Iwobi or Andreas Pereira. I think Wilson is the one who, stop laughing, Suj, is the one who's got the really high ceiling out of the three.
I don't have a problem with Harry Wilson as a player, or even if you decide you want to buy him. But I've always
7 again.
Just feel like there's other options that are probably better. But now we're in a different phase of the season where you're talking about the blanks and doubles and getting through, and certain managers are looking for edges and stuff. So I don't mind Harry Wilson at all, to be honest with you.
If Wolves have those players absent, Fulham will beat them at the weekend, I think. And they'll definitely give my team problems in 29.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Wolves in a minute.
Sheffield United in game week 30 as well is perfectly reasonable. I think Probably Robinson over Bassi, I think, defensive. I feel like Castagne is a little risky in terms of Kenny Tete, can obviously nick some minutes there and stuff. And Willian obviously poses a threat to these other guys as well. It should be noted that as well. If you're comparing, say, a Pereira with, say, a Kudos, for an example, those Fulham offensive midfielders are more likely to get subbed earlier than a Kudos, if that sort of thing, I think, is important to you. And Muniz now, if it works for you, I don't mind it. I think you're good for 29. He'll cover game week 30 fine, but I think it's the same one. Like, are you, and unless you was part of a plan where it enabled you, I feel like, to go back to Salah in 30 as an example, I don't know. I still don't know how you pick him over those other forwards. So it's the same thing. Brighton, shocker. And that team lineup is different. It was primarily a back four. This is what they've been doing quite a lot, is a hybrid that becomes a back three and build up. So Estupinan did, for me, play left back rather than left wing back, but it's a hybrid that allows him to go very offensive. There's pressure on him to get straight back into left back positions without the ball. Not the same with Tariq Lamptey on the other side, who played more like a right-hand side midfielder. They'll benefit from obviously having Julio Enciso back, despite the fact that obviously didn't play well at the weekend. Evan Ferguson had a lot of chances, but he's not taking them at the moment. They played Jan-Paul van Heck in midfield.
Yep.
And nothing sums up the problem for Brighton players in FPL now than Pascal Gross not starting, and him even taking Lewis Dunk off in the second half as well. So they're just a complete write-off while they're in Europe. They do have a good fixture with Forest at home this week. So if you've got like your Estupinan or your Gross, sure, you're playing it this week, completely getting that. After that, it's complete bin. Blank 29, Liverpool away 30. If they're still in Europe, you need to be off that. However, a note of caution. Should they get well beat in Rome on Thursday, and I don't imagine they will, because I think they'll pick their strongest team is something completely different to this, and that's the other problem. They're probably going to prioritise Europe. But if they get well beat in Rome on Thursday, say 3-4-0, the projections for the doubles for everybody will change again. And that includes potentially having a Brighton double with Chelsea earlier than we might have imagined.
Keep your eyes peeled on that.
Keep eyes on that.